So, you've been told you need a root canal. Most of us think that once the dentist is done cleaning out the inside of the tooth, that's it, job finished. But what if I told you that the most important part of saving your tooth actually happens after the root canal is done? Today, we're going to dig into what that crucial next step really is.
It's the question on everyone's mind, right? The internal work is done, the pain is finally gone, but is that tooth truly safe for the long haul? Well, the answer might actually surprise you.
The short answer, not quite. Think of it this way. The root canal is like building a perfect, clean foundation for a house. It creates this amazing, sealed internal structure. But, let's be honest, a foundation is pretty useless without a solid roof to protect it from the elements. And that is the key to everything we're about to talk about.
And that brings us to the single most important factor for success after a root canal. It's something dentists call the coronal seal. This is the protective barrier between your newly treated tooth and, well, the rest of the world.
Essentially, it's the roof on that house we were just talking about. A good filling, or a crown, acts as this totally leak-proof seal. Its whole job is to keep bacteria and saliva from your mouth from sneaking back inside and reinfecting all of that meticulous work. Without it, that perfect foundation is just completely exposed.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The research on this is overwhelmingly clear. One major study put it perfectly. The final restoration, that seal, that roof, is at least as important as the quality of the root canal procedure itself. So how big of a difference are we really talking about?
Okay, let's look at the numbers. When you have a good root canal and you follow it up with a good, tight coronal seal, the success rate is a fantastic 90%. That's what we're all aiming for. That's a huge win.
But check this out. Look what happens when that same perfectly good root canal is covered with a poor, leaky restoration. The success rate absolutely plummets, down to just 44%. I mean, that's less than a coin flip. The quality of that roof is literally everything.
This chart tells the whole story. You can see that 90% success rate we just talked about, good root canal, good seal. And there's the massive drop to 44% with a poor seal. But here's the part that really blows my mind, that third bar. Even a less than perfect root canal still has a pretty decent 68% chance of success, if it's protected by a great seal. The takeaway is just undeniable. A good roof can actually salvage a mediocre foundation, but a leaky one will ruin even the best work.
Okay, so we've established the seal is absolutely crucial. The next big question your dentist has to tackle is structural. Does this weakened tooth need some extra support from the inside? In other words, does it need a post?
Well, it all comes down to how much of your original tooth is left standing. If you've got a situation like the tooth on the left, where a lot of the structure is gone, there's just not much for a new filling or crown to grab onto. And that's when a fiber post, like the one you see being placed on the right, becomes essential for anchoring the new core material.
And today, we're talking about modern fiber posts. These are a total game changer. Unlike the old, rigid metal posts that could actually create stress and fracture a root, these are different. They have a flexibility that's super similar to your natural tooth. They spread out biting forces evenly, and they're linked to much, much lower rates of catastrophic failure. Oh, and they look way better too. They're pretty much the standard of care now, and for good reason.
The data on this is incredibly clear. This chart shows that as a tooth loses more of its natural walls, the failure rate without a post, that's the upper line, it just skyrockets. But look what happens when you add a fiber post. The failure rate stays dramatically lower. And this data really builds to a crucial and often misunderstood point about what a post actually does.
So here it is, the main point, and it's a super common misunderstanding. A post does not make the tooth itself any stronger. Its job is purely about retention. It's kind of like rebar in concrete. It's just there to give the core materials something solid to grip onto, which then creates a solid foundation for your final crown or filling.
So now that we've covered the internal support, we can finally talk about the roof itself, the final restoration. And the choice here generally comes down to two main paths, a direct filling or an indirect lab-made crown or onlay.
So let's look at the trade-offs. On one hand, you have a direct filling. It's more conservative, meaning it saves more of your natural tooth. It's usually done in a single visit and has a lower initial cost. On the other hand, you have a crown or onlay. These provide maximum strength and protection, which is super important for the weakened cusps of back teeth. But they do require removing a bit more tooth structure and usually take a couple of visits to complete.
And you can really see the logic here visually. The teeth on the left still have plenty of strong surrounding walls. They're perfect candidates for a direct composite filling.
But for a tooth that's lost a lot of its structure, you need something like the onlay you see on the right to cover and protect the whole biting surface from fracture.
So how does a dentist put all of this information together to make the right call for your specific tooth? Well, let's break it down into a simple guide that kind of shows you their thought process.
This table just lays it all out so perfectly. If there's minimal tooth loss, a simple composite filling is usually the way to go, no post needed. With moderate loss, you start needing to think about covering those cusps with an onlay, and a post becomes a maybe. And with severe tooth loss, a full crown is typically recommended, and a post becomes pretty much essential. You can see it's a clear progression based on that one key factor: how much healthy tooth is there to work with?
Of course, it's not just about counting the number of walls. Your dentist is also looking at you as an individual. Are you a grinder? Do you chew on a lot of hard foods? Is this a front tooth or a back tooth that takes all the chewing force? All of these personal risk factors help them tailor the absolute perfect plan for you.
So in the end, it's crystal clear that a successful outcome isn't just about the root canal. It's a partnership between that excellent internal treatment, the foundation, and an equally well-planned and executed final restoration, the roof. One simply cannot succeed without the other.
Which leaves us with one final thought to consider. The next time you think about a tooth that's had a root canal, don't just ask if the foundation is solid. Ask yourself, is the roof that's protecting it just as strong? Because ultimately, that's what truly saves the tooth.